It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as NXT could be set to enter its own Attitude Era, a brand new championship is coming to AEW, and a WWE Superstar has requested their release from the company. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... Bryan Danielson spoke with Chris Muller of Bleacher Report this week ahead of his AEW in-ring debut tonight at Dynamite Grand Slam. Bryan would discuss the difference between WWE and AEW and spoke of the access AEW wrestlers have to President Tony Khan, and he said, "It's hard for me to say, honestly. It's weird because WWE itself has changed so much in the time that I've been there. People go in, and I think this happens in every company regardless, and push for ideas that will make them look good. And so everybody does that, so I think more of the politics, the struggle in WWE is that the system is so big that it's hard to get access to the people you need to get access to get anything to change. One of the wonderful things about AEW is that almost everybody has access to Tony Khan. He's very friendly and very approachable. People lower on the card will go up and talk to Tony. It's a very open source system, and as the company gets bigger, that might actually not be functionable. One thing I will say is that I feel like the locker room is more upbeat at AEW. Bryan spoke of how he likes to talk to the younger talent to seek advice from them, which is kind of funny because he's a 20+ year veteran at this point. He says he likes to ask for advice on what's cool these days, with Hook and Dante Martin being his go-to guys. He said, "I've only been there a couple of weeks, but I love chatting to Dante Martin and Hook, and I keep asking them if I look cool or not because I'm 40 and I'm not cool, and it's just different. I've never met a lot of the people in AEW." Bryan will take part in the Ultimate Dream match when he takes on AEW World Champion Kenny Omega in front of AEW's biggest crowd to date tonight at the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Whilst the title isn't on the line, the match will no doubt be contender for Match of the Year, and for the record, I think Bryan Danielson is pretty cool. Next up, we have more from Danielson, who has been busy this week with interviews. We now go to his chat from the Wrestling Podcast with Brandon Walker, where he revealed a phone call he had with Kevin Dunn, WWE's executive producer. Bryan was asked to respect WWE's intellectual property and revealed that he's doing his best to keep his word. In regards to the yes chants, he said, "I'm not doing it myself because I respect WWE's intellectual property. I don't think anything legally, they haven't threatened anything legally, so I had a great conversation with Kevin Dunn with WWE before I debuted with AEW. I was very upfront with WWE about, okay, I want to let you guys know I'm leaving, this is my debut date, and all that kind of stuff. They asked me politely to respect their intellectual property, even some of the things that couldn't be legally enforced. I'm trying my best to do that." Whilst it's unlikely the yes chant would end up with Bryan and WWE in court, he continues to show his respect for his former employer. This follows an article written by Danielson, which we covered in depth in yesterday's news video, where he thanked WWE's employees and fans, and even had a direct message to Chairman Vince McMahon, so if you missed that video, make sure you check it out after this one. On last night's episode of NXT 2.0, a brand new champion was crowned. On the show, Roderick Strong of the Diamond Mine took on NXT Cruiserweight Champion Kushida with the belt on the line. After interference from his stable mates, Strong would hit a backbreaker for the victory, kicking off his first reign with the title. Kushida's 160-day reign as Cruiserweight Champion began on April 13th, 2021, where he defeated Santos Escobar on an episode of NXT TV. Strong is currently at the head of the Diamond Mine faction and now leads the Cruiserweight division into this new incarnation of NXT. Next up, we go to an interview with AEW President Tony Khan, who spoke with Dan Gelston of the Associated Press to discuss the growth of All Elite Wrestling since its inception. Khan feels the more hands-on he's got, the stronger the company has been, and he said, "I found the company has gotten stronger the more I take on, and I think the fans would agree with that. The really hardcore fans would actually really agree with that. The people who know the more hands-on I got about everything, the company has gotten a lot stronger." Khan went on to discuss the next round of negotiations with Warner Media, who is the parent company of TBS and TNT, with their current deal ending in 2023. He revealed that he expects a big increase in revenue next time around and said, Our TNT deal is very fair. I think that we've performed at such a high level that will justify a big increase on our next deal. We are very fortunate to have their support. The timing of that deal was great. To get that in January 2020, that is a huge revenue stream for us. AEW's deal with Warner Media is currently worth $175 million, or just under $45 million per year. This deal was renegotiated in January 2020, which saw the addition of AEW Rampage as well as more money from the broadcaster as part of it. The company continued to close in on WWE's key demo, which is the number most important to advertisers, therefore most important to networks, which could lead to AEW and WWE getting similar deals in the future. Come 2023, perhaps AEW could find a new home on an even bigger broadcaster, unless Warner Media can come up with the money to keep them there. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head, hopefully, towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. At this past week's Impact Wrestling tapings, a main event talent picked up an injury. PW Insider reported that former Impact World Champion Sami Callihan suffered from a broken ankle as well as a broken tibia and fibia in his left leg. Callihan is expected to be out for a number of months and will not be back until at least the middle of 2022. The injury took place following a tope suicida from the ring to the floor, although there is no specific details currently known as to who the match was with. It's also not known if the match will actually air. Callihan has now undergone surgery in Nashville and was released yesterday, and hopefully he can make a full recovery and make a return as soon as possible. And as NXT head into a new era, there are reports that the product could be set to become edgier as they plan to target the 18 to 34 demographic. A report from Fightful suggests that there has been discussions in the company about plans for NXT to begin including more aggression, harsher language, as well as having lenience on female characters' gear, which suggests that NXT could be heading into its own attitude era. Whilst it likely won't be that extreme, the USA Network are said to be supportive of the changes. Keeping up with current affairs with promos and character verbiage is another point said to be brought up by those within WWE as they look to make the brand more contemporary. Whilst these changes are set to take place in NXT, it's unknown if this will act as a testing ground for a potential shift of the main roster television, but it will be interesting to track as AEW continue to put pressure on WWE to freshen up their product. We have seen in the past that several things that happened in NXT eventually ended up on the main roster, with perhaps the biggest example being the shift towards the philosophy of women's wrestling. It's unknown exactly when the changes to NXT will take place, but one talent was quoted as saying that they'll believe it when they see it, suggesting that the roster have yet to be made aware of any such plans. Next up, we have some news from the always reliable Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, who has made a very interesting tweet regarding a brand new title belt coming to All Elite Wrestling. Zarian would reveal that there is talk of a new championship coming to the AEW women's division, and he tweeted, "Hearing rumblings of a new title being introduced to AEW soon. It will be a secondary women's championship. There is no details on what the belt will be exactly, whether it be a singles or tag team title. I would personally prefer a secondary singles title over a tag belt, as I'm not sure the division quite has the depth for a tag division just yet, so perhaps it could be the AEW Women's National title or something to that effect. This would be a great way of getting more exposure on the division, whilst giving lesser known talent the opportunity to shine. But let me know what you think the belt should be, whether that be a singles, tag team, or maybe even a trios, in the comments down below. And finally, we have a report from Mas Lucha in Mexico, who have said that a WWE Superstar has requested their release from the company. The story states that Gran Metalik is unhappy with the lack of opportunities being afforded to him and therefore wants out of WWE, with this said to have been confirmed by sources close to the luchador. Still only 33, he worked in CMLL under his former name of Mascara Dorada before joining WWE in 2016 as part of the newly formed cruiserweight division. In 2018, he was added as part of the Lucha House Party stable, but never received a significant push, often playing a supporting role to stablemate Kalisto. There is currently no news on if WWE are open to cutting his contract, although it's likely the request will be granted, with the company not being shy to let wrestlers go to cut costs and to maximize profits. Metallic's contract is said to expire in 2023, so he's got around 2 years left if they do say no. If the release was granted, don't be surprised to see him pop up again in CMLL or potentially their rival AAA, or maybe even New Japan Pro-Wrestling where he has previously worked under his former persona. And before you go, why not check out my video where I discuss 10 wrestlers that would be perfect members of the Elite.